Let's do a little bit of multi-step factoring. The first one is going to be a greatest common factor and then a trinomial factoring. And then the second problem that we're going to do is going to be greatest common factor and then the difference of two squares. So let's take this first one right here, and we're going to first look for the greatest common factor. Looks like 6 goes into all three of these terms. So I'm going to make sure that I'm going to take a 6 out. Now it looks like all three of them have a g, and so we're going to take a g out as well. Now if the exponents were higher, I could take a higher exponent of g out, but since 1 is the most that I can take out of all of them, then that's what I'm going to take out for now. So if I divide 6g out of 6g cubed, then I'll be left with g squared. So this will turn into that. If I divide negative 24 by 6, I'm going to get negative 4, and g squared divided by g will give me g, so this will turn into that when I take the 6g out. And then if I take 24g and divide by 6g, then I will end up with plus 4. And the g's will end up canceling out. I will take that out and there won't be any g's left. Now at this point I've got to look at the trinomial that I have left, and I've got to say, okay, well, can I factor it further? And so I'm going to see, well, I can put g's in front, right? Those need to multiply to give me this. And then I also need to have two numbers that are going to multiply to give me the 4 and add to give me negative 4. And I know right off that negative 2 and negative 2 will multiply to give me 4 and add to give me negative 4. And then I do need to have this 6g in the front. This is the correct answer. Now it would be a little bit better if I wrote the answer this way, 6g times g minus 2 squared. And that's a little bit more the way that we would write it mathematically. But both of these are correct, and I would give full credit for either of those. So let's go ahead and look at this other one, problem number 2 here. Again, we're looking for a greatest common factor. We're trying to figure out what's the biggest thing that we can take out. Just looking at those, I don't know. I know that a 5 goes into both of those. There may be something bigger, but let's try just with the 5 to start with. Again, I've got the z's here, and it looks like I can take 6 out of both of them. I can't take any more than that because this one only has z to the 6th. So we'll take out 5z to the 6th. 80 divided by 5, well, 5 into 8 is 1 with 3 remaining. 5 into 30 would be 6, so 16. Z to the 8th divided by z to the 6th. I subtract the exponents when I divide, so 16z squared. And then negative 45 divided by 5 will leave me with negative 9. And then the z's cancel out, and so I'm left with that. Now I look at this, and I see I have the z squared here, right? But I don't have a middle term for the z, so I don't have a trinomial, so I can't do the same thing that I did over here. But there's nothing else common. So what I do want to double check and see is if this is the difference of two squares. I notice that 16 is 4 squared and 9 is 3 squared. Okay? And hopefully you remember from our lesson the other day that the difference of two squares, if you have a squared minus b squared, that always factors to a plus b, a minus b. And so that's what we're going to use here. Since this first term is something squared, it's actually two things squared. Both of these do have to be squared in order for it to work. The 80 isn't squared, the z to the 8th really isn't, and so I couldn't have done it to start with. But from this point, since both of these are squared, I can separate this into 4z plus 3. Notice I don't have the squareds here because the squareds are getting broken up into these two pieces, and 4z minus 3. If I FOILed this out, I would end up getting 16z squared minus 9. The positive 12z and the negative 12z would cancel out. That's why I don't have a middle term there with the z. Don't forget to leave the 5z to the 6th on the front. He's already out there all by himself. You don't want to kick him out and make him feel even worse. So definitely keep him in there. He is important and very valid to the conclusion of your question. And that's the answer.